Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down productivity and how to be more consistent in your craft. And we're going to be breaking down the mindset of someone who's very famous and who has proven to be consistent in his craft, KSI. So if you've never heard of KSI, he's a British YouTuber turned musician, turned boxer, and he continues to do YouTube. It seems like he does a lot. How is he capable of being so consistent? Roughly around 2016 to 2017, YouTube vlogging was becoming a thing. This is when a lot of creators were getting their cameras, they were running the streets, filming themselves, creating these vlogs, creating these stories, and at times, pranking people. There was a huge demand for this type of content, and two people that seized the opportunity were the Paul brothers, Logan Paul and Jake Paul. Let's zone in on Logan Paul. Logan Paul had great storytelling skills. He was very competitive, and he was one of those people that wanted to rise in the YouTube landscape, and he wanted to do it in a way where he made a splash. So each of his vlogs that he was making was really out there. There was a lot of complexity that was involved. He had to get a lot of individuals involved. He needed to do a lot of this fancy editing. He needed to think of a lot of unique angles, and he was consistent for a long period of time. But his counterpart was KSI. What Logan Paul was doing in the US, KSI was doing in England. And with him, his setup was much different. Rather than all the hoopla of him running around, of him getting all these different people and such, KSI was over here recording his videos in front of the computer. It seemed a little too simple, but it produced results. And this was the formula that KSI did for a long time. A couple of months to a couple of years passed on by, and Logan Paul and KSI, they didn't like each other. They used to throw a lot of shots at each other, and eventually they ended up boxing. The first time they boxed, it was a tie. The second time they boxed, KSI won. And more time passed on by, and it was as though that Logan Paul and KSI could never be friends. They were both very competitive, and they were both in this YouTube sphere trying to become the king. But eventually, there came a point where these two made peace with one another, and eventually they went into business together. Once they became friends, they began to talk about their journey, how difficult it was to be a creator, and how difficult it was to create ideas on a consistent basis. From an outsider's perspective, it looks easy, but when you're actually doing it, it's not easy. It's very difficult. And as they're talking, what I noticed was that Logan Paul was no longer consistent with vlogging, with his YouTube videos, while KSI still didn't miss a beat. What was the difference? And that's when Logan Paul answered what I was thinking within this little interview that they were doing. He said, KSI, the reason that you've been so consistent is that you've been so simple this entire time. And that's when Logan Paul talked about how difficult it was to create those vlogs. I mean, after certain times, he couldn't sleep properly. Apparently, he was getting nosebleeds. He was starting to have a lot of stress that was associated with the act. And when he ended up being inconsistent with it, he really ended up being inconsistent with it. Because this is how the body works. When you're going very hard at a certain activity for an extended period of time, and let's say you don't love it like that. Let's say you're just doing it because just out of competitive spirit, you want to beat the other person. There comes a time when the body is like, no mas, I'm done. You didn't give me rest like you were supposed to, so I am going to take that rest myself. I've seen that happen with me. There were plenty of times where, a couple of years ago, I would be hardcore into a diet. And what I would eat was chicken, avocados, and maybe some potatoes, and that was about it. Every single day. Whenever I would see other people eating a hamburger or a pizza, I'm like, bro, I would never do something like that. Me, I meal prep. So every single day, every single meal, I'm just eating the same thing over and over. I'm consistent for, let's say, 4 months. Then, out of the blue moon, I just feel this repulsion to chicken and avocados and potatoes. And all the meal prepping that I did that was in my fridge with all these little nice containers, I allowed it to rot. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to touch you. I don't even want to look at you. That's when I went to Steak and Shake, Checkers, McDonald's, and I was over here eating the burgers. I knew intellectually that this was wrong, but still, it's like there was this something in my body that was like, whatever, man. Like, I told you that I didn't just want chicken, avocados, and potatoes this entire time. You didn't listen to me, and now we're going to do it my way. And that's when I'm eating all these burgers. So I found it really fascinating when Logan Paul is talking about a very similar dynamic, but he's talking about it from the perspective of YouTube. So KSI, the main reason that he's been consistent for a very long time is because he's able to strip away all the complexity of a certain field and focus on the simplicity, and he just multiplies it over and over and over again. And I'm sure plenty of times people were like, man, when are you going to switch it up? And every now and then it's smart to switch it up, but other times it's actually better to just be like, I'm not going to fix what's not broken, and I'm just going to keep repeating this over and over again. And eventually, this simplicity times multiplicity eventually becomes a habit. And now it's as though the skill works through you. So in order to apply the hack that KSI was capable of doing in correlation with his life, you want to ask yourself the question, is all this stuff too complex? I mean, can I really do this 10 years from now? I mean, do I always have to get this many variables involved? Which variables are a must? Which ones do I need? How can I factor my emotional health into this as well? As I was starting this YouTube channel, there was a certain period where I didn't have this little studio. So I would have to go to like this park. I would have to go to this farm area. I would have to go on the middle of the streets to record a video. It's hot. It's burning. I'm sweating. As I'm getting in my groove, someone sees me recording a video. They're like, hey, man. I have to restart the video. Too much complexity. So it's like, how about there's a little studio where I can apply the tip that KSI does, and boom, just like that, consistency chances are skyrocketing. So eliminate all the complexity, eliminate all the clutter, and make it simplicity, then multiply that simplicity, and that is how you have consistency. If you want more practical tips like this into productivity and how to be consistent in your craft, be sure to check out my book, Level Up Mentality, a guide to re-engineer your mindset for confidence. In this book, you're going to learn how to build habits, how to learn effectively, how to use discipline in a way where you can do it for a long time and not just burst out very quickly, and plenty of other topics. Check out the Level Up Mentality in the link in the description box, the pinned comment, or go on Amazon or ArmaniTalks.com and grab your copy today. Thank you very much for joining the Armani Talks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.